Emperor of Britain, Marcus Aurelius Carausius and the Rise and Fall of the Brittanic Empire.
In 43 AD, Rome invaded the Kingdom of Britain, and over time forced its authority over the entire island, helped in large part by the marriage of Emperor Claudius's daughter Julia Venus to Caradoc, the King of Britain and the Pendragon of the Isles. Roman influence took swift root in Loegria, modern England, Cornwall and Wales, while in Scotland it was mainly confined to the lowlands. The Highlanders and Islanders, as they did in later centuries, kept to themselves, with only sporadic contact between themselves and the Romans. The British royal family embraced Roman culture wholeheartedly, soon adopting Roman names and the Latin language, even being made Rome's senior military officers, such as the British Prince Lucius Artorius Castus, the great-grandson of Caradoc and Julia Venus, and establishing several Roman colonies on the island. But not everyone on the island embraced Rome so eagerly. Some resisted, including the Scottish King Galdus, better known by the name Calgacus, who was defeated by Marius, King of Britain and son of Caradoc and Julia Venus, in the Roman governor Gaius Julius Agricola at the Battle of Mons Graupius in 85 AD. Other rebellions would be short-lived, and by and large Roman rule went uncontested after Mons Graupius, even if many weren't happy with it. With this rule came an influx of different immigrants, both Roman citizens and non-citizens, taking advantage of free land and new frontiers.
In 163 AD, one of these arrivals was a young Septimius Severus, who was a Roman citizen from North Africa. Severus, newly inducted into the Roman senatorial ranks, was seeking to expand his knowledge beyond what his limited education back home had given him, and studied with Romano-British philosophers, who, even at this early date, in terms of Britain's status as a Roman province, were ranked among the best in the empire. During his stay in Britain, Severus met Lucilla, the daughter of British King Lucius, and the youngest of his 4 children. The two met in Camelot, the future Camelot, while the North African nobleman was attending court as a guest of the king. They developed an attraction for each other, and Lucius, while a strong Christian, the first British king to convert to the faith in fact, did not hesitate in allowing this relationship to flourish, aware what having a senator as a son-in-law could mean for his kingdom. Another strong factor was that Severus's mother belonged to the Fulvia family, an ancient Roman noble clan that could trace its history in Rome to the 300s BC. Lucilla fell pregnant, and by 164 she gave birth to a baby boy whom she named Bassianus. Septimius, not wishing to be tied down with a family at this time, left Britain soon after his son's birth, but despite this did remain in contact, and would in time send for Bassianus to come live with him in Rome when the boy reached his early teens. While this drama was playing out in the royal court, another man came to Britain, though his arrival was neither celebrated or even noted by most, as this man was neither a nobleman or wealthy, but he was a Roman citizen. His name was Marcus Julius, a former soldier of humble origins who hailed from the Menapii tribe, a Celtic people who lived in what is today France. Having served in the Roman military 25 years since the time he was 18, Marcus was looking for a new start and believed Britain was the place to find it. He bought a plot of land in the Somerset countryside and built a modest farmhouse for himself. He bought cows from neighbors and began cultivating the land. In 166, he married Cordelia, a neighbor's sister who came from a native British family. Together, the couple had 2 children, Marcus and Clodia, born 167 and 170 respectively. The Julius family, while never rich, grew stable with their farm, Marcus the elder becoming a respected man in his community and able to provide a decent education for his children with the money he earned from his farm. In 180, Pictish warriors, rebelling against the Scottish king and Roman rule, invaded southern Britain and managed to kill the Roman governor before ravaging the countryside. Lucius Artorius Castus, stationed in the fort of Bremetenicum in what is today Lancashire as the fort's commander, quickly rallied his men, auxiliaries of Sarmatian horsemen, the finest horse warriors in all of Europe, and led them against the invading Picts. The British prince succeeded in driving the enemy back and saving the southern half of the province, earning a promotion to the rank of dux or general soon thereafter by the Emperor Commodus. These events, while happening in the north, would have shaped the Julius family's lives for a time.
Castus's actions in particular inspired a young Marcus Julius to join the legions when he grew older, which he did in 187, taking on the name of Marcus Aurelius Carausius in honor of former Emperor Marcus Aurelius.
Unlike most legionaries, Marcus Aurelius Carausius was not sent outside of his home province. Instead, he was posted along Hadrian's Wall, a border between Scotland and Laegria, built to keep marauding Picts out, though 180 proved how ineffective it truly was. Here he remained for years, dutifully serving, even if it grew tedious. In 192, Emperor Commodus was assassinated, sending the entire empire into turmoil, a year-long civil war tearing across Roman territories. In Britain, the governor, Clodius Albinus, a North African, allied with Septimius Severus, one of the men competing for the imperial crown. Carausius was forced to serve in this new army, together with hundreds of others, and helped the two men secure the imperial throne. For several years, Albinus and Septimius worked together well, Albinus even placing Bassianus on the British throne on his co-ruler's orders, overthrowing Caribir, the son of Lucius and the rightful king. Bassianus was, more or less, a puppet monarch, having little actual authority under his father and Albinus, but he lived well with his family, his wife Julia being crowned queen, and his young daughter, Fulvia, named in honor of his paternal grandmother, being made heir to the throne. In 196, Albinus, growing greedy, wanted all the power of the empire for himself. He cast off his loyalty to Severus, and, ignoring the protests of the toothless Bassianus, marshaled his legions to march on Rome. Albinus and his legions, Carausius among them, crossed the British Channel to Gaul, where they met with Severus's forces at the Battle of Lugdunum. Albinus lost this battle, losing his life in the process, and Septimius Severus became sole emperor of the Roman Empire. The legions who served Albinus were spared and sent back to Britain, now to serve under Bassianus, who would rule semi-independently from then on. Carausius survived the Battle of Lugdunum and returned to Britain, where once more he manned the wall. He stayed here for years, doing sentry work and village patrols. Britain under Bassianus was stable, if unremarkable, for much of his reign. But in 208, Pictish raids started to occur again, and Severus, intending to conquer Scotland in a major military campaign, came to Britain with his legions. Along with him came his younger son Publius Septimius Geta, born to his Syrian wife Julia Domna, whom he married after returning to Rome all those years earlier. Bassianus, known now as Caracalla due to his habit of wearing a hooded tunic used primarily by Gauls, met his father and younger brother in London, known to the Romans as Londinum, and together the three Severins marched into the north. In Scotland, the Pictish leader Fulginius, a man of half-Roman descent paternally, gathered his forces to meet the imperial army. Carausius found himself in this campaign, locking swords with Picts soon after Severus crossed into Scotland, the painted warriors riding their horses down upon the Romans, still retaining their equestrian expertise from when their Scythian Israelite forefathers rode the plains of Central Asia. The campaign saw several gruesome and hard-fought battles. The Picts and their Scottish and British allies gave the Romans everything they had. Severus, however, proved the better general, and within a few months drove Fulginius out of the country after a brutal battle in the Highlands. But even so, the Pictish chieftain wasn't finished. Fleeing to the ancestral Pictish homeland of Central Asia, Fulginius spent several years recruiting several Scythian chieftains to his cause, and with them invaded northern Britain in 211, reaching all the way to the city of Ibracum, known today as York. Severus and his sons rushed to the city, and despite many northern Britons joining the invaders, the emperor was able to secure a victory, but at the cost of his own life, being killed in the midst of battle. Fulginius too died in the Battle of Ibracum, his body taken back into Scotland to be buried, while the emperor was laid to rest in Ibracum. After the death of Severus, his two sons clashed at Ibracum over the succession. Bassianus believed he, as the eldest, was the rightful heir to the Roman Empire. Geta, on the other hand, contested this on the grounds that while Bassianus may have been the eldest, he was not, by Roman law, the legitimate emperor due to being born out of wedlock. Civil war loomed on the horizon as Britain declared Bassianus emperor, while the rest of the empire selected Geta, putting the two brothers at a crossroads. But before this civil war could happen, a rebellion broke out in the north, led by Marcus Aurelius Carausius. The soldier, fearful of what civil war might mean for Britain, wanted to separate the province from Rome and establish it as an independent nation again. Claiming the title of Pendragon to signify his intent, and ignoring that Bassianus held the title by law, Carausius declared himself king of Britain in opposition to Bassianus, and war spread across the kingdom, differing factions supporting the usurper or Septimius's son. Geta, for his part, left for Rome, happy to leave the Britons to slaughter each other, believing he could swoop in later and crush whoever won while they were weakened. The bloody British Civil War lasted a year, ending with the death of Bassianus in battle in 212. Carausius marched on London after the king's death and proclaimed himself Emperor of Britain, taking Bassianus's daughter Fulvia as his wife in order to solidify his succession. Other contenders for the British throne, such as Cadfan, son of Princess Gladys, and another grandson of King Lucius, bided their time. Cadfan, ruling what is today Cumbria, made no moves against the usurper initially, allowing the upstart to have his glory. From 212 to 230, Carausius ruled Britain as an independent empire, his authority stretching across the whole island. In 230, Rome, long wanting to reclaim her lost province, secretly contacted two British princes, asking for their support in an invasion plan. The princes in question were Cadfan and Julius Asclepiodotus, king of Cornwall, who both agreed so long as Cadfan was installed as king, to which the Senate and Roman Emperor, Marcus Aurelius Severus Alexander, a cousin to Geta who had died, accepted. In spring of 230, the Senate sent a Roman Spaniard named Electus to Britain with several legions to put down Carausius's revolt, meeting Cadfan and Julius Asclepiodotus in what is today Kent with their armies. The three men met Carausius in battle in the Midlands of present-day England, and here the man who began his life as a simple farmer's son fell, his crown snatched away from him. Carausius's children by Fulvia fled with their mother into Scotland, and the Scottish nobility protected them against any repercussions from the Romans or rebel Britons. One of Carausius's grandsons, named Marcus Julius Carausius in his honor, would one day serve as a count in the British royal court, and his descendants would marry into the Scottish royal line, becoming ancestors to, among others, Arthur Pendragon, Constantine Pendragon, Aidan MacGabran, and Kenneth MacAlpin, and all the Scottish clans who claimed descent from them. Electus did not give the throne to Cadfan, as was agreed. Instead, he took it for himself, ruling for 2 years as a tyrant, before Cadfan and Julius could finally remove him and place Cadfan on the throne, restoring Britain to Roman rule.